Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today I have the 2020 Chevy Silverado LT. This vehicle competes against the Ford F-150, the Nissan Titan, the Ram 1500, and also the Toyota Tundra. So my question for today's video is, how does this vehicle compare to the other competition? But let's take a look under the hood of the Silverado here. This has General Motors tried and true 5.3 liter V8. It makes 355 horsepower, 383 foot-pounds of torque, and it's paired with an 8-speed automatic transmission. You can pair it with a 10-speed automatic transmission, but the 8-speed is an upgrade from the actual 6-speed that General Motors offered in the previous generation Silverado, which was the actual third generation. This is also the fourth generation Silverado here, as this one sits and weighs about 4,000 pounds. But if you go up a little higher in the trim levels, you can get it to weigh about 5,000 pounds. So this truck is not light whatsoever. But let's take a look at the front fascia here. Let's talk about it really quick, because a lot of people didn't like that Chevy ended up changing the front fascia here. It does look like the previous generation, which is, like I mentioned, was the third generation Silverado. But Chevy does offer, on this particular trim, you do get these multi-reflector LED lights with an automatic high beam, LED daytime running light, and incandescent turn signal. If you want full LEDs, you have to go for the RST trim, and also the actual High Country will actually give you full LED setup here, if I'm not mistaken. I think they don't give you a turn signal on the actual higher trim models, and there is some carbon fiber inserts in there as well, which is a kind of unique feature, because what pickup truck actually has carbon fiber inserts on it besides its rival, the GMC Sierra, which actually has a carbon fiber bed, which I'm not going to talk about. I can't wait to review that one and test that bed out just to see how it actually performs. There is a chrome grille here with the golden Chevy bow tie. You do get this chrome front bumper here. Also have some like piecing down here for the air dam. As you can see, it does split the air to give this truck a better aerodynamics. My Tesla doesn't actually have fog lights, but let's take a look at the side proportions of the Chevy Silverado. Looking at the side proportions of the Chevy Silverado, starting with these wheels and tires. These are a 265/60 Michelin tires, so they're all season tires. You can also get a beefier tire if you go for the LT Trail Boss, which is a little off-roader. It comes with a 2-inch lift from the actual factory, which is the Rancho shocks. A lot of people give it a lot of crap because of Rancho shocks, but I think they're still pretty good shocks, even though they're not the actual Fox shocks. But that's for a whole nother review. Actually, like the alloy finish here with the multi-spoke design. You do get four disc brakes for all 4 wheels. Actually, this is one of my favorite rim designs here on the Chevy Silverado. Also in the High Country, I like those fat wheel spokes that you get on the High Country trim. Your wheelbase is 147.4 with an overall length of 231 inches. So this truck is very long, and when I was parking this truck in certain parking spots, yeah, the end was kind of sticking out, or I had to like back it in, and then the front was sticking out. So if you're looking to take this thing to a shopping mall or a parking garage, good luck trying to fit it into a tight parking space. And my Tesla has the black chrome mirror cap combination here. Doesn't come with blind spot monitoring, unfortunately. This truck is massive, so I think if you want to get a Silverado, I think you should definitely get it with the blind spot monitoring. But my Tesla does have the 5.5 foot bed. It's pretty durable when you're trying to load stuff in. And Chevy did increase the actual bed step here. A lot of people kept getting their boots, men and women kept getting their boots stuck into the actual bumper here. So Chevy increased it so you can reach down into the bed a little better with your work boots. And I'm 5'8", and I could barely reach my hand to the bottom of the actual tailgate. I mean, the bottom of the bed here. Chevy does offer this with a spray-on bed, but let's take a look at the rear of the Chevy Silverado. So at the rear of the Silverado, starting with this taillight design, there's an incandescent setup here, incandescent turn signal, incandescent reverse light, and incandescent brake light. There's some badging here with an LT badge, your Chevrolet thing, which is badged into the actual back of the tailgate, and your Silverado badging here. The standard backup camera. Let the tailgate down is a softened tailgate. This portion here has like this plasticized material, but you guys already know how I feel about beds that don't come with spray-on beds. You have 12 tie-down hooks back here. There's some LED lighting that you get up here, but you do get LED lighting at the top of the third brake light, which is a full LED light, which I wasn't kind of expecting. Honestly, I thought it would have been incandescent, but I see Chevy's trying to be more of a premium brand now, offering LED lighting, which is a nice premium feature as well. But since this is not the actual spray-on bed, there's a lot of scraping in this bed here. But like I mentioned, even though a spray-on bed is a little bit more pricier, it will last however long the truck will last. But closing the tailgate back here, very soft close. You can just do it with one hand. There's some connectors down here for your trailering or so forth, but you can tow 6,900 pounds with the LT trim here. There's a chrome bumper here with some plastic, has some nice ridging on it just in case you won't slip or fall. And like I mentioned, with this step-in height for the step-in, thing here. Like I said, you can definitely just reach in back of the truck at an easier access because they changed that for the for the newer generation Silverado. But let's hop into the Silverado and check and see how the interior looks. So the key fob for the 2020 Chevrolet Silverado, as you can see, is a basic key, a panic mode, lock, unlock, and you also have this old style fashion key. Surprise, Chevy didn't offer a keyless entry or remote start on this particular trim because it's an LT trim, which means luxury touring. As you can see, there's no keyless entry on the door here, but open up the Silverado, you can either lock it or unlock it back with the key fob, or you can do it from your controls here. My tester actually has the cloth seats, which I think are not bad, but let's look at the door panel first. It is a soft touch ejecting molded plastic. There is this great looking stitching here, which I think is pretty nice. This chrome door handle, your lock controls are here. Your mirror controls is only express up, express down for the driver, but it's express down for the rest of the window controls here. This portion here is nice and padded. As you can see, there's additional storage here, 2 cup holders. It does hold my bottled water just fine. My Tesla doesn't actually have the running boards, unfortunately. I'm 5'8". Let's have different drive modes here. Trailer mode. The drive modes are sport, snow, and wet. I'm gonna show you guys that in this actual helper screen here. Your headlight controls fixture here. Like I mentioned, this is for the actual bed, the light for the bed, the tailgate back there. Your dimmer switches are here, electronic parking brake. But let's get inside the Silverado here. Hoisting myself up, and I still forgot to mention, I'm gonna get back out so I can show you guys. I have this pillow here because it doesn't actually have the adjustability to raise the seat up. I'm only 5'8", and when I sit, I'm gonna show you guys a comparison really quick so you guys can see. I don't see the hood from my point of view, but now when I put the pillow under me, because I'm a midget, not making fun of any midgets out there, I do see a little bit better compared with not sitting on top of the pillow. But closing the door here, door sounds nice and solid, but you do get this grab handle to hoist yourself inside the vehicle if you don't actually have the running boards like my Chester doesn't have. But to start up the vehicle, just put this old style key inside the ignition and you're gonna fire it right up. As you can see, I have the old traditional gauges here. The gauge was doing a nice sweep. As you can hear, that's the traditional GMC, the GM logo chiming. Hopefully General Motors goes away from that actual chime. It's an old school chime, but it's okay. It does what it does. Your turning signal stock, wind wiper stock is all integrated into one. And guess what? My tester has a column shifter, guys. It doesn't have the newer, up-to-date piano shifter transmission that the newer 2021 Silverado, 2021 Tahoe and Suburban are going to get. So if you guys want a column shifter still, I think you should go ahead and get the 2020 Silverado instead of a newer 2021 model that might get a refresh. Chevy might just do a emergency refresh for the Silverado. My Tesla does have adaptive cruise control. You can cycle through this little helper screen here. I have it on the actual off-road mode here. This is a 2-wheel drive, so it does basically is a rear-wheel drive. I don't actually have the mode for the 4 high, 4 low, and 2 high because I'm missing these little knobs. But sure, like I mentioned, I'm going to show you guys the different drive modes here. As you can see, I have a normal, sport, and snow. And if I flick it to the right here, as you can see, it does show the trailer mode down there with that yellow icon. And just switch it back to the left here, and it would turn it off. And I know I said right, but I'm going to say left. As you can see, this helper screen is pretty decent size. You can click through different functions like your units. That's like your measurements. Like here in America, as you guys can see, it does show metrics, and you can also exit however you want to set your trucks that it can read it to you. You can also switch it back to this. Like I said, I'm gonna just leave it on the actual screen here, but I do leave it when I'm driving. I do leave it on the miles per hour and also my fuel trip. I got this truck on Sunday, and this truck, I barely put gas in it, honestly. And I do have a heavy damn foot, so I'm kind of surprised that I honestly didn't have to keep going to the gas station and refilling this thirsty V8 beast. But the upper part of your dashboard here is going to be a hard touch plastic. You do have some nice leathering here with additional stitching. My apologies, I kind of belched a little bit. There's this aluminum like trim. You do have this 8-inch display, which is the Chevy Infotainment 3. So the system is very snappy. As you can see, it does have Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. I noticed with the Apple CarPlay, it does perform just fine. It didn't lag with me. These big volume and tuning knobs are here. You do have a dedicated home button here. As you can see, it does go either or to your radio presets or back to the actual Chevy Infotainment System 3 here. You have a sync and track button here, a back button, a single climate control here, automatic start stop. You can turn it off if you would like, but me personally, I'll leave it on just to save a little bit better fuel economy. A hazard switch, a stability control, and this button here, as you guys can see really quick, it's a very cool button that Chevy offers. All the windows will legit go down at the same time, but guess what? You have to put them all back up manually. Thank God that the driver window is express up and express down, so you don't have to actually hold it for too long. You have a USB-C here, a USB port, 12 volt here, dual glove box. As you can see, decent amount of storage. I think the Ford F-150 does offer just a little bit more storage on the top glove box. Open up the second compartment here. It's a pretty decent glove box. As you can see, you have your owner's manual booklets here. It does fit the glove box just fine. One thing I do not like about my Tester is that it has the center seat here, only because, I'm gonna show you guys now. I'm sitting in the middle, I'm 5'8". Basically have to have my knees up here in front of the infotainment system. But mind you, if my foot slips, I'm gonna mess around and hit the gas. So I think that Chevy should just go away from having the 3 configuration in the actual front seats and just give us a center console here, because I think that's kind of dangerous, and I wouldn't let a dog that's over 5'8" sit next to me, or a kid, just in case their foot might slip and hit the accelerator, you know, as they're sitting here on accident. But to lay down this seat here, you can pull this tab here and the seat will just flop down. 2 cup holders, additional storage here. Open up the center console here. It does fit my wallet and a whole bunch of junk that I got. Make sure you guys are wearing your mask. My chapstick and so forth. It does have a decent amount of storage. This portion here is nice and padded, rest your elbows. The seats, like I mentioned, they're cloth. They do hold you in place. They're not aggressively bolstered, but on a long road trip, I went to West Palm Beach. They did hold us, all my friends. Nobody complained during the road trip, so the seats are very comfortable. My Tesla doesn't offer a sunroof, and Chevy doesn't offer a panel sunroof, unfortunately. There is incandescent lighting throughout the cabin. I kind of wasn't expecting that, just because I seen that this had the actual metal seat. But I wish the center console was here. It would offer a little bit more storage, maybe even a wireless charging pad on the LT trims, if I'm not mistaken. And no, my Tesla doesn't have that rear view camera mirror, unfortunately. We do have some standard buttons up here, which is OnStar, SOS, and a voice control or a reminder to let you know that your kids are in the rear. You can also turn this off if you guys want to have the lights turn on every time you open the door, but I will leave that off. But you can turn this on and all the lights in here will turn on, even in the rear, but turning it off. But overall, the interior in here is very spacious, so I see why a lot of Americans are buying pickup trucks and SUVs. But let's hop into the back seat of the Silverado. So getting to the rear of the Silverado here, as you can see, my Tesla doesn't have running boards like I mentioned in the front, but you do get this grab handle here. Hoisting yourself up into the vehicle and closing the door here. Door sounds nice and solid. The legroom, Chevy rates it back here at 43.4. That's an improvement for the previous generation, which they increased by 3 inches. Dual map pockets are here. The seats are cloth, but like I mentioned, they're okay. They do hold you in place. But when you lift this part up here, like you see, I have my stuff down here. Shout out to Chevy. I do need a sponsor, guys. I do have my Chevrolet hat here. Have a jacket, some shoes, and so forth. You can just push the seat back down with an easy fix. The floor back here is nice and flat, so I can see why Americans are buying compact SUVs, SUVs in general, CUVs, and also a truck like this. Mind you, this is the crew cab configuration, so you can definitely fit your family here and take this thing on a long road trip. But let's see how the Silverado performs out on the road. So the area that I was filming in is a grassy area, so leaving out here is a little bit bumpy in certain areas. As you guys can see here on the little helper screen, I actually have it in the off-road mode so I can see where the articulation is of the vehicle. Mind you, this does have a 1-inch lift from the previous generation here. This does have hill descent as well. As you can see, it does tell you I'm at about almost 4 degrees here at an incline. Would I say the LT is worth going off-road? Honestly, no. I would rather take the LT Trail Boss off-road. As you guys can see, the camera's a little bit shaky if it's not showing up. The camera is shaking from my point of view here. As you can see, this grassy area does have little craters and so forth, so the truck does kind of wobble off-road. But I'd rather take the LT Trail Boss off-road just because it has a 2-inch lift from the actual factory. This does have a 1-inch lift compared to the 3rd generation Silverado, so it does sit a little higher And my tester does have automatic start stop. Like I mentioned, you can just click it off. You can click it on or off if you would like, but I will leave it on just because I'm trying to save a little bit of fuel. And when you release your foot off the brake, it does start right back up just fine. This is the 4th generation Silverado, like I mentioned. The 3rd generation Silverado was a nice looking generation, but the 4th generation here looks more aggressive, more modern, more sleek, like I normally say about these up-to-date cars that I review. But the Silverado is a very nice handling vehicle. The suspension feel, the chassis feels great. I think it does ride a little bit better than the Ford F-150. I'm not going to say it does ride better than the Ram 1500 just because you can get air suspension with the Ram 1500. I know Chevy is going to be updating the Silverado in the near future, so it might get the 4-corner independent suspension just like how it has it on the actual Tahoe, Suburban, Yukon, and so forth. But going down the road here, the roads here in Miami are crappy, like I mentioned numerous amount of times. So as you guys can see, the road does bump. The road is kind of bumpy here and there. But the Silverado does stay planted. It's a nice road around the vehicle. Steering feel is very playful, not race car like. You can go like this. You can see the chassis does ride back and forth. But the Silverado does ride very good. Like I mentioned, on the highway, I was averaging about, let me tell you guys right now, I was averaging about, if I can find it really quick. Okay, sorry guys, forgot how to locate it. I was averaging about 10.2, but my best, I was averaging 27.5, and like I mentioned, it's rated at 17 in the city, 24 on the highway, so I was getting almost close to 30 mpg if I didn't have a heavier foot. I mean, I would have probably got to 30 mpg. Maybe I'm gonna do like a fuel test run, a little loop, and see what's the best average fuel economy. Like I mentioned, I got 27.5, so I know I can touch that 30 mpg mark. If you're a conservative driver, I feel like you can definitely touch that 30 mpg mark. My tester does have the 8-speed automatic transmission. I'm gonna do a slight a lot of people gave the 8-speed automatic transmission a lot of crap, but as you can see, it found its the gear that it wanted to be in. But turning radius here, I think it's at 48.1, and I'm gonna stay on the pavement. I'm gonna do a slight acceleration really quick. I'm gonna put my foot on the brake. I'm gonna put it into its sport mode here. I'm gonna turn off the traction control. I'm gonna floor it. Yes, you will burn a lot of rubber with the 5.3, but I'm putting it back into the traction control here just because I don't want to like have this thing slipping around because it is rear-wheel drive. Visibility from the Silverado is pretty decent. You have these massive side mirrors here. Like I mentioned, my tester doesn't have blind spot monitoring, unfortunately. You have to pay an option for that. But General Motors is going to make a lot of stuff standard in their upcoming vehicles. Of course, they're looking into making a lot of electrification vehicles. So that's a much needed thing for them, you know, to have zero emissions, zero crashes. That's their modem to have zero everything. But, you know, I kind of see where they're going with actual trying their best into looking into electrification. And they're teaming up, General Motors is making some platforms for Honda. So Honda's going to be joining along in the electric war as well. With the Silverado here, you do have engines. You have a 5.3 liter that my tester has. You can get a 6.2 liter V8, a 4.3 liter V6, a 2.7 liter turbo, a 3 liter inline 6 turbo diesel. Just in case all my diesel lovers out there. My Tesla has the 5.3 liter, so it does have General Motors dynamic fuel management system, which it can drop this thing down to 2 cylinders on the highway, so as they get the best MPG where you're driving this thing around town. But if you're looking for a little bit more power, I would recommend getting the 6.2 liter that offers 420 horsepower, 460 foot-pounds of torque. The Silverado, like I mentioned, the chassis and suspension, it feels very solid. The cabin is quiet in here. I don't hear a lot of road noise. Like I mentioned, I'm going about 30 miles per hour in this residential neighborhood. And my Tesla does come with that 8-speed automatic transmission, like I mentioned, so it does know how to get its top gear. It doesn't seem confused. If you want to get the 10-speed, I mean, you know, the 10-speed wouldn't be a bad option if you're looking to have a lot of gears on your hands. But the 8-speed is a very good. It's an improvement over that previous 6-speed automatic transmission. After spending time with the 2020 Chevy Silverado LT, my tester has the 5.3 liter V8, which makes 355 horsepower, 383 foot-pounds of torque. Mind you, if you guys are looking for a little bit more power, General Motors offer a 6.2 liter, which makes 420 horsepower and 460 foot-pounds of torque, just in case there's some power-hungry people out there, or if you're looking to tow a little bit more with that 6.2 liter with that 10-speed automatic transmission. My tester has the 8-speed automatic transmission, but it does shift fine, as you guys seen from the actual test drive. If you're looking to purchase one of these Silverados, you guys can just check out the description box below and check out my local Chevy dealerships. But starting price for the Silverado is $31,000 for the work truck entry level. And also, since this is the LT trim, my tester starts at $40,000. But here in my local area, my Chevy dealership is discounting off of MSRP, so you can probably get this thing for about $32,000. So I think that's kind of still compared to the Ram 1500 and also the Ford F-150, which is a little pricier. Mind you, the Chevy Silverado can get a little pricier too with that high country trim, which can sticker for like $67,000. Make sure you guys follow me on Instagram at Driver Reviews, and please keep subscribing to my YouTube channel. I'll catch you all in the next video.